Ifeanyi had loved Glad quietly but completely. She was the kind of woman everyone respected, gentle, generous, and devoted. Their daughter, Winifred, was the center of their small, tight-knit world. Glad could not have more children, so when Winifred was 10 and Glad became pregnant, the family was pleasantly surprised. The pregnancy ended in a tragedy. Both mother and baby died during childbirth. The neighborhood mourned with Ifeanyi, and his house, once lively and warm, fell silent. For 2 years, Winifred lived with her father in a home empty of maternal care, clinging to fragments of memories of her mother. As Winifred neared her 12th birthday, Ifeanyi's extended family urged him to consider remarriage. They emphasized the importance of a motherly presence for a girl entering adolescence, a time when guidance was crucial. After careful consideration, they agreed upon Uju, a talented and empathetic tailor. Uju had faced losses of her own, losing her mother at the same age as Winifred. Her experiences had hardened her in some ways, but they also gave her a deep understanding of grief, resilience, and the needs of children who had grown without maternal guidance. She did not marry Ifeanyi to replace Glad, she said to herself, but to help Winifred navigate the complexities of adolescence safely and with support. Glad's family was immediately skeptical. They feared that a stepmother would harm Winifred. They formally requested that Ifeanyi relinquish the girl to them, hoping to prevent what they assumed would be a cruel intrusion. Ifeanyi refused, holding firm that Winifred would remain with him and that Uju was not only trustworthy but capable of providing the care his daughter needed. The neighborhood buzzed with speculation. The adults' concerns were protective, rooted in affection for Winifred, not hostility toward Uju. They silently pledged to monitor her actions and intervene if necessary. The day of the ceremony arrived quietly. It was small, private, and held in Uju's father's sitting room. Only immediate family attended. That Saturday evening, Uju stepped into a household still heavy with grief and suspicion. Winifred watched her from a distance, hurt and defensive. Her father, still grieving Glad, loved Uju in principle, but lacked emotional readiness. So Uju had to navigate this tension from the suspicious neighbors, the grieving father, and the hostile stepdaughter. Winifred, influenced by neighborhood warnings to resist any stepmother, met Uju with coldness and defiance, refusing even a glance. Uju understood the stakes. Her own past losses had taught her the importance of patience, observation, and empathy. She did not attempt to force affection or obedience. Instead, she allowed Winifred to express her anger, her mistrust, and her grief. Every act of defiance was met not with confrontation, but with consistent calmness and care. She began small with simple gestures, preparing food, tidying rooms, arranging Winifred's school supplies, and let the young girl adjust at her own pace. Uju knew she had to earn trust, not demand it. She began integrating herself into the household, slowly, letting Winifred set the pace. Each morning, she knocked gently on Winifred's door, waking her with calm persistence, helping her prepare for school. At first, Winifred resented the intrusion, grumbling and slamming doors, insisting she could manage on her own. Uju did not push. She simply offered alternatives. If you'd rather make your own breakfast, that's fine. I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything. Meals became a quiet battlefield. Uju prepared nutritious, flavored dishes, including jollof rice with carefully selected vegetables and proteins. Winifred refused them at first, preferring instant noodles and packaged snacks. Uju responded with patience, allowing Winifred to make her own choices while maintaining her presence and care. Slowly, the aroma and presentation drew the girl's curiosity. She began to take small bites and eventually full servings, although she always left dishes for Uju to clear, testing the boundaries of authority and affection. Uju's influence extended beyond meals. She organized Winifred's school uniforms, ensuring they were crisply ironed and neat, and arranged for a skilled hair braider to visit every Saturday. Uju also provided quality school supplies, a custom-made lunch bag, matching school bag, and stationery that drew admiration from classmates. Her work as a tailor enabled her to design beautiful, modest dresses that suited Winifred's style and impressed the neighborhood. Slowly, the girl's appearance became a reflection of Uju's care. The neighborhood began to notice changes. Whispers shifted from skepticism to quiet acknowledgement. Winifred appeared better cared for than even in her mother's lifetime. Adults who had initially watched with suspicion now nodded to Uju with grudging respect. Even Ifeanyi began to notice the transformation. The calm, steady presence of Uju in the household had begun to shift the energy, easing his grief while offering Winifred stability and guidance. Homework became another area of growth. Uju reviewed Winifred's assignment daily, correcting mistakes without criticism. At first, the girl resisted, brushing aside her stepmother's corrections, yet when Uju left the room, Winifred often returned to revise her work privately. This quiet accountability reinforced the trust between them, proving that Uju's care was consistent and reliable, not punitive or controlling. By the end of the first few months, the atmosphere in the house was subtly transformed. Winifred's peers noticed her polished appearance and improved focus, and some friends envied her wardrobe and presentation. The girl's resistance softened. Though she retained her sharp independence, Uju's patient approach allowed Winifred to adjust on her terms, gradually replacing hostility with tentative acceptance. The turning point came unexpectedly. One afternoon, Winifred returned home from St. Margaret's Missionary School in tears, her small frame shaking with frustration and fear. She had been accused of stealing a classmate's new watch, a gift from her father, purchased abroad. The watch was discovered in Winifred's bag, and her peers assumed the worst. St. Margaret's maintained strict policies against theft, often resulting in suspension or expulsion. Winifred insisted she had not taken it, but the accusations from classmates weighed heavily on her. Ifeanyi was away on a work trip, leaving Uju to represent him before the principal. Uju did not hesitate. She listened patiently as Winifred explained the situation, including her suspicion that the real culprit was a former friend who resented Winifred's newfound style and confidence. The girl had allegedly spread false stories to tarnish Winifred's reputation. At the principal's office, Uju confronted the other student with calm authority. She asked precise, probing questions, assessing the inconsistencies in the story. When the other girl hesitated, faltered, and eventually admitted to planting the watch in Winifred's bag, the truth became undeniable. Uju stood firm throughout, repeatedly asserting her confidence in Winifred's character. "I know my daughter. She would never steal." Her voice carried authority. The principal acknowledged the findings and suspended the girls responsible for the deceit. Winifred was vindicated, her innocence restored. That moment marked a profound shift in her perception of Uju. The ice around her heart melted, not instantaneously, but steadily. For the first time, Winifred saw her stepmother as a protector, a mentor, and a guardian who could navigate challenges on her behalf. Returning home, Winifred's demeanor was cautious yet respectful. Uju did not celebrate her victory with pomp, but used it as a teaching moment. She explained the importance of integrity, vigilance, and fairness, emphasizing that trust is earned and defended with consistent action. From that day, Winifred's small acts of defiance diminished. She began to seek Uju's advice, allowing the new routines and lessons to shape her behavior and thinking. One day, she began to call her mother without any prompting. Uju took the title calmly on the outside, but went into her room and wept with relief and happiness. It is the ultimate sign that finally Winnie had accepted her. Neighbors observed the change as well. The girl, who had once been sullen and resistant, now displayed confidence, curiosity, and a quiet pride in her appearance and conduct. Uju's patience and dedication were no longer a point of skepticism but admiration. Ifeanyi, returning from his trip, noticed the subtle yet undeniable bond forming between his daughter and his wife. The home, once tense with grief and suspicion, began to breathe with a renewed sense of warmth, stability, and hope. In the months that followed, Winifred's trust in Uju deepened steadily. The stepmother's consistency in daily routines, preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, ensuring uniforms were neat and schoolwork was checked, became the unshakable backbone of Winifred's new life. What began as reluctant acceptance transformed into tentative cooperation and eventually mutual respect. Winifred began to regard Uju not as an intruder, but as a stabilizing presence who quietly safeguarded her well-being. Uju's guidance extended beyond academics and household care. She taught Winifred social skills, encouraged her to take part in extracurricular activities, and helped her navigate friendships and peer pressure. When conflicts arose with classmates, Uju provided counsel, always advocating for fairness and self-respect. Her past experiences, growing up without a mother and surviving toxic relationships, gave her insights into the challenges that Winifred faced. Each lesson was practical, rooted in empathy, and delivered without condescension. Uju's influence also reshaped the household environment. She turned Glad's old provision shop, once dormant, into a vibrant workspace. She transformed it into a small atelier, displaying beautifully crafted garments. She encouraged Winifred to observe and learn the skill, telling her that in the current economic reality, it is prudent to have a plan B in case a job wasn't forthcoming after graduation. The neighborhood watched as the once sullen and withdrawn young girl flourished under Uju's care. She wore neatly made Ankara dresses, carried organized school supplies, and maintained an air of confidence. Even friends who had once pitied her now looked on with admiration. Uju's attitude towards Winifred didn't change even when she began having children. Within 5 years of marriage, Uju gave birth twice, a boy and a girl who became a constant pest to Winnie as they grew. They admired the much older big sister, and so there's always a sibling bawling their heart out, begging to follow her whenever she wanted to go out. Her friends even began to tease her that she always had a sibling hanging on her dress. Now, the warmth and the love in the family was unmistakable, and so neighbors minded their own business. By the time Winifred approached the threshold of university life, the transformation was complete. The sulky, resentful girl had grown into a confident, self-assured young woman. She no longer viewed Uju as an adversary, but as a mentor, protector, and maternal figure she could rely on. Their relationship, once fragile and tentative, now thrived on mutual trust, respect, and affection. Winifred would later recall that it was Uju's unwavering patience, consistency, and insight that allowed her to navigate adolescence without repeating the mistakes her motherless childhood might have forced upon her. Ifeanyi, witnessing the bond, gradually released the lingering grief for Glad. He saw in Uju not a replacement for his late wife, but a partner whose care ensured the continuity of love and guidance for Winifred and brought additional joys to the family. The household, once weighed down by mourning and suspicion, now moved forward with renewed energy, purpose, and cohesion. Uju had secured a legacy of stability and guidance that would accompany Winnie into adulthood. With Uju's presence, she carried both the memory of her late mother and the assurance of steadfast love from her current mother. Her transition from adolescence into adulthood was now guided by love, wisdom, and a mother who had proven that compassion, patience, and consistent action could transform even the most resistant hearts. The family became proof that stereotypes doesn't always determine outcomes. Not all stepmothers are wicked. There are still kind-hearted women like Uju who would take other people's children and treat them completely as their own.